What's up, booties? It's Nick here. Just wanted to take a minute before we get into the episode to apologize for the fact that it's coming out a little bit later than anticipated, and for the fact that the show that we promoted for Dani has since passed. However, you can catch Dani performing at Powerhouse Folsom August 5th, if you're lucky, or you can just follow her on Instagram at Dani Demize, which is DaniDemize, or you can just follow the Scream Queens Gorelesque troupe at Scream Queens Gorelesque for all your bloody good times. I would also like to apologize for those watching the video because towards the end of the video we had some technical difficulties. Lost a camera, then another camera, and pretty sure I'm just haunted. There was a lot of crazy shit, so check that out, stay tuned. Other than that, hope you enjoy the episode, hope you enjoy Dani, and remember, be careful out there, because you never know when you might get dabbed to death.
I feel kind of like God.
And then this man with the devil on his hand came and took the hat.
Free Britney.
Free Britney.
Be careful. You never know when you might get dabbed to death.
Oh my god, I just realized that's Ghostface.
Yeah, I actually just got that.
Oh my god, I love Ghostface. I actually have an empty coffin tattoo on my back of one of my legs. I'm gonna get Ghostface in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually I have another shirt that's Ghostface and it says "Call Me."
Oh,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been addicted to this app called Temu. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I just heard of that for like the first time the other day, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck even is this
So
app?
I don't know what it is exactly, where the stuff comes from, but like everything we've bought off of it so far, mostly everything has been pretty good.
Okay.
I got that little Hellraiser puzzle cube off of it,
Oh,
and it's
nice.
actually pretty heavy and solid.
Is it like actually functional?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, it, like
you
twists
can only
around
do
like
you can
it?
only do the two of the like formations.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of hard to figure out which way you got to push it.
Right. But I mean, it works.
Yeah.
It's not like this
Eventually.
is plastic
Oh,
junky.
there we go. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, and then you can just slide it back into the normal cube, and then like feel
Hell
how heavy
yeah.
that is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it had a little stand somewhere.
That's
I just
got
don't
some
know.
weight to
I don't
it.
know what happened to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I got that. I got the ghost faced rug.
I'm gonna need Ghostface right now.
Whole bunch of stuff, and everything's super cheap, like really cheap.
Huh.
I got
Probably
five shirts and 3 pairs of pants for $100.
Damn.
Yeah.
In this economy.
Right. All right. I'll just run the intro real quick. Hey, all you voodoods and voodolls and all you voodies in between. As always, I am Nick Nobody Savage, and you are listening to Dab to Death. If you are watching on YouTube, then you have noticed that I am joined in the studio by a very special guest. And if you are listening to the audio only, allow me to introduce Dani Demize.
Hi.
So, how you doing?
I'm good. Chilling with this cool cat.
Right? She
We're
decided to
apparently
be
best friends
she
now.
decided to be a part of the show.
If I try to stop petting her, she's like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, she gets offended.
Yeah.
She gets really offended.
I'm
I'll-
doing good, though.
Yeah,
I'm doing good.
nice.
Surviving this heat wave.
Oh, it's brutal.
Brutal outside.
Yeah. I mean, even in here it's a little warm. you
Feels
know.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, a little background. Dani is a performance artist, burlesque dancer, one of the members of, and current stage manager for the Scream Queens Gorelesque troupe, and also love horror events in general, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All
Nice.
the performance aspect of love horror events.
Nice.
Yeah.
If anybody is not from the Sacramento area, basically the Scream Queens are Northern California's horror-based burlesque, drag, and variety show troupe. And I can personally attest to the fact that their shows are always a bloody good time. Are there any events coming up that you would like to promote while we're on the topic?
Yeah.
This will be coming out Friday, so it'll be right before.
Okay, so then Saturday, July 22nd, Is it 22nd? I don't even know what day it is anymore. Yeah, we have Scream Queens Gorelesque presents Freak Show Cabaret. So it is a dark circus themed show, and so we'll have obviously our normal Gorelesque, drag. We have pole, we have comedy, and we even have some sideshow coming out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Very excited for it. It's gonna be a fucked up show.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Can I swear?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's when we talk about the topics we talk about on this show, you have to swear sometimes because it's all fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just a few little questions. So when did you first start performing in general, let alone with the Scream Queens?
So I kind of fell into this, surprisingly enough. From when I was a kid, I always loved watching performances. I always knew that, like, in some aspect, I wanted to do something creative. I just didn't know what. When I was younger, I was really searching for an outlet. So I came back from a trip back in 2017, and my friends were hosting this very, very small, like, drag burlesque show at this, like, tiny little goth bar called Heart Lounge that I used to bartend at up in Placerville. And they were like, hey, we're starting to do more of our shows. Like, do you want to be our stage kitten? And I was like, sure. What the fuck is that? And they're like, oh, you basically just, like, pick up the clothes from one act and, like, make sure, like, the props are set up for the next act. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's easy. I can do that. All of a sudden, I was, like, writing the set list, like, stage managing, but didn't really know I was stage managing back then. I mean, this bar was super small. Like, our capacity was, like, 45 people. It was very, very small. And I was starting to, like, kind of write acts because I was like, oh, I have an idea for this song, and I would, like, help with choreography. And so I just stage kittened and stage managed in a way for a while. Did that for, like, a year. And then I finally wrote an act for somebody, but I couldn't decide who I wanted to give it to. And then I was like, I think I want to do this one.
Nice.
And everybody was, like, trying to get me to do an act for a really long time. And I was like, no, I could never do it. And so I did it. And then I've been in love with it ever since.
Nice.
So throughout that time, we kind of established Scream Queens Gorelesque. So I'm actually, like, one of the co-founders of Scream Queens
I thought I had
Gorelesque.
seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's how it started in this tiny little goth bar called Heart Lounge. That doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. I remember your guys' shows at Knobs and Knockers, too. I loved that
we went to
place.
Knobs and Knockers afterwards.
Yeah.
We love Knobs. I miss that place so much.
Yeah.
Sadly, the owner decided to, like, get rid of the business, and she moved to Vegas, actually.
Yeah, well, and then, like, so we went to the place after the new guy opened up, and we were, like, talking to him, and we were like, hey, so, like, you gonna host these shows still? And he's like, yeah, no, that's not my kind of scene. Like, he seemed
we tried with Honey and the Trap Cat.
Yeah, he seemed very, very closed to it, and I was like, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was honestly such a rad venue. Yeah. We were really sad to lose it,
but I mean, the Colonial's cool.
Yeah, we love the Colonial. I mean, don't get me wrong. Bar shows and theater shows, are just so different. But the Colonials are home. All of our shows are at the Colonial now, and we love it. The Colonial owners are family, essentially. Nice. We've been working with them for years, and they've got a really rad crew as well, and we all know each other and work well together. Nice. And I'm very fortunate to be there.
Right on.
Yeah.
So when did the Scream Queens officially form?
2017.
Oh wow! So like the same year,
actually,
so it moved pretty quick.
It moved very fast. Yeah, our first, like, quote unquote Scream Queen show is actually October 2017. I want to say it was Halloween night.
Oh, wow.
I have the poster somewhere. I keep the posters from every single show I've ever done. So I have the very large pile. Eventually, when I have a big enough place, I want to frame all of them and, like, do something cool with it.
Or just like wallpaper the entire wall with them.
Right? Yeah. I don't want to write them, though. Some of them, like, I don't know if I could reprint.
Yeah, because once they're wallpapered, that's permanent.
Yeah, and I don't have the files for them anymore, some of those. But yeah, so since 2017, so we're about to be 6 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. And then obviously, you got to do a show with the Boulet brothers.
That's amazing.
Iconic, amazing. I'm so glad I got to be there for that.
Yeah. Fun fact about that.
Yeah.
We were actually supposed to do that show before COVID.
No way.
Yeah. They actually, I guess, like, heard of us somehow. I don't know how.
Right.
And our producer Tim was like, hey, like, you want to do a show with the Boulay Brothers? And I was like, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Please, oh my God.
Yes, a million times yes.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever it takes. And and it was actually the same. 2020 was supposed to be a huge year. We were going to have Samwell for Pride and the Boulay Brothers for Halloween, and then lockdown hit and everything went tits up, and so we were just like, no. But then last year we ended up having both of them anyway, so it really worked out. But the Bouleys are so nice.
Yeah.
They were honestly super rad to work with. Very nice individuals.
Yeah, that's like one thing I've always wondered watching the show is like, because I mean, you've got to imagine that they're not going to be like assholes, like.
Well,
but
in the industry, you hear things,
true,
about
but like that's the thing is like,
general.
that's the thing is like sometimes they tell you don't meet your heroes, and so it was like it could have been one of those moments. But like, I'm so glad to hear that they're actually like really nice.
Yeah, they were super nice. They were super thankful for being there. They were amazing to work with, and it was an honor, truly, to be like, oh my God, I have the Boulay stage on my stage. But it's just so funny too, because some people are like, oh, you were at that Boulay show, and it's like, that was a Scream Queen show.
You're like, that was our show. Yeah, they were at our show.
Our show, like whatever.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus, that was good. Okay. What is one of your favorite things about performing burlesque?
Really kind of there's I don't know if I have just one answer.
Okay.
The community behind it, honestly, like I really struggled for a while to find my community, to find, quote unquote, my calling, or like my, everybody has like their thing. I'm doing air quotes for people not watching. And when I stumbled into the world of burlesque, that I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the thing that I've been searching for so long. And it's a really awesome community. It's a really loving community. I love that you don't have to look or be a certain way. Burlesque is for everybody. And at the end of the day, what burlesque is really about is self-empowerment. And that, has helped me drastically. I mean, I think it's very safe to say that burlesque has saved my life in a way. And, over the years, this community that we've built, I've had people approach us saying your shows have given me a purpose. And that means more to me than anything, like to be able to provide this community and to be given this community and the self-empowerment that I've gotten out of it and self-love. And it's also kind of awesome when you're like in a room full of 500 people, if you're at the Colonial, and you turn around and take your top off and there's 500 people you've never met, like, fuck yeah! And you're just like, yeah!
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
It's very empowering. You get to know a lot about yourself. You get to know a lot about your strengths. I know some people, personally I do, like, kind of work out some shit on stage, like definitely bring some emotional shit to stage. It's a place to let a lot of that out and use that as a way to connect with not only your audience but your fellow performers.
Nice. All right. Okay, so we'll get into some more questions later, but I guess we'll get into the topic for the week.
Yeah.
I normally would be dabbing with like my dab rig and all the setup, but like I don't really have anything new to dab on, and there's a lot of coughing involved usually, and so like I'm just gonna hit the pen.
All good.
And then I've got my little Starship device that I'll probably plug into a dab rig at some point.
There you go.
I do have, for my listeners here, something that is a new upcoming product that, one of the benefits of working in the industry is you get to have access to things before they launch. So there's a new brand coming called Pure Puffs, and these are really strong, really potent cannabis cartridges, and they use botanical terps, so you get really good strong flavors. Like we have a blueberry slushy that is amazing, and then there's the watermelon mojito, which is one of my personal favorites, orange pineapple, tangy banana, and sour mango. So these will be coming to dispensaries near you in the California area soon, probably next month.
Nice.
So yeah, alrighty. Now, when I asked if there was a specific true crime story or topic that you wanted to cover while you were here, you rather quickly settled on the topic, or on the tragic tale of Polly Klaas, because it hit pretty close to home. or at least to your hometown.
Mm-hmm.
So, why exactly, what drew you to this besides it being a hometown story?
Well, Polly Klaas, for those who don't know, happened in Petaluma, California, out in the Bay Area. And that's actually the town I grew up in. And growing up in Petaluma, that was just something everybody knew. It was ingrained in your childhood. It was like talked about in school. It was talked about in the community. It was just kind of, in a way, a dark looming like tragedy that the community really came together on, but it also changed the community of Petaluma. I mean, Petaluma is a very, well, I shouldn't say like now, but like back when I was growing up, it was a small cow town, I mean, it's a farmer town. It's still to this day our claim to fame is the egg capital of the world. Fun fact.
I mean,
Google it. It's a thing.
Gilroy has garlic, so
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. I couldn't live there. I couldn't smell that all day. But it was a cow town back in the day. Now it's industrialized and whatever, and people retire there, and prices are spiking. Yada yada yada. But it was just it really rocked the community, and it changed this from changed from a community that probably didn't lock their doors so much. I mean, Polly Klaas happened almost a full year before I was even born. But it's definitely not a community where like, oh, you gotta put bars on your windows, like it's a safe small town. And growing up, it was always, did you lock your door? Like, put a stick in the window so nobody can break in.
I remember that. If you have the sliding doors, you gotta have like a broom or something.
And it's still it's something that I still do today. I mean, I live in Folsom, which is not a bad area by means, but I'm still like, is there a towel in the window? Make sure you put that stick. Did you double lock it?
Well, and then I mean, especially if you're into true crime, then your mind is on murder quite often, and you're just you know what? We should make sure all the doors, windows are locked and barred, and
I mean, no matter where you live, like, people are sketch.
True.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really ingrained in your upbringing, Polly Klaas, and it's a really tragic story.
Yeah, no, it seriously is. And the thing that irritates me the most about it is that it's such a statement on the failure of the legal system and like the prison system, and like the fact that somebody like Richard Allen Davis was even allowed to be out in the first place to do this.
Right.
Which I think I actually have in my notes. But
Polly Klaas was his third offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had already been arrested twice for kidnapping.
Yeah, well, and then there was and like I said, we'll get into the details, but there was like a whole crime spree after he escaped and like all this other shit. And then they still were like, parole. Yeah.
It's fine.
So for those who may not be aware or who may just need a refresher, Polly Klaas was a 12-year-old girl who lived with her mother and sister in Petaluma, California until October 1st, 1993, when Richard Allen Davis entered their home, kidnapped Polly, and ultimately ended her life. I feel that one of the saddest things about this case is that it should have never happened. Because in my opinion, Richard Allen Davis should never have been free to commit such a crime in the first place. And we're going to get into his past offenses. So on September 24th, 1976, at 22 years old, Richard Allen Davis abducted 26-year-old Frances M. at knife point from the South Hayward BART station. I used to live in Hayward, Oakland. Like, I lived all around the Bay Area.
So you know it.
Yeah, so I know this, and I lived in Petaluma for a while. I lived in Marin, so like the whole area is super familiar. So like when you mentioned this, I was like, oh shit, like,
Also hitting close to home.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh shit, all right. But yeah, so kidnapped her at knife point from the South Hayward BART station as she entered her car, pushing Frances into the passenger seat and placing a paper bag containing twine behind the seat. Davis took her keys and drove off, claiming he would not hurt her and he needed to get away because someone was following him. I'm also going to say now that there does seem to be a consistent thread of some kind of undiagnosed mental illness going on with Richard Allen Davis.
Most likely.
A lot of paranoia, a lot of like delusions of like being followed or chased or, stuff like that.
His jam seems to be at knife point too.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention all of the information for this week's episode comes directly from court case files and documents, so it's as accurate as I could possibly get. So, Davis, who smelled of alcohol, hit Frances on the head and told her to stop crying. He eventually pulled over and exposed his flaccid penis. But as he tried to push Frances's head down to his crotch, she grabbed the blade of his knife with one hand, used her other hand to open the door, and ran from the car. Survival instinct on point.
On point. That's
Right.
Final Girl.
Final
vibes
Girl
right there.
fucking, yeah. Survival instincts. Frances flagged down a passing car, which happened to be occupied by an off-duty California highway patrolman who chased Davis down and arrested him. Like, talk about luck, too. Like, you just happened
Right. You happen to find
a
a
cop.
CHP.
He's like, well, I'm off the clock, but I guess. You
Right.
know?
Jesus. And the fact that he was even let go after that.
Right.
Like-
Yeah. Yeah, no. It's terrible. Davis later told a court-appointed psychiatrist, Dr. George Ponomareff, anyway, that he had attacked Frances because he heard a voice of a woman wondering what it would like to be raped. So this is where I'm like,
Okay.
the mental illness
Yeah.
thing. He hears voices, like all of this, you know.
Well, I'm like 22, male. It's you could be entering a schizophrenic episode. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually. I didn't even think about
That's
that.
when it starts to show.
Yeah. Huh. Davis.
Have a BA in psychology.
Well, see, that helps a lot actually especially when you're into true crime and horror, you know.
I know I can't get mad at people because I'm like, but you're like that because.
Well, and
Rationalize
that is
shit.
one of the things, and I don't think that it rationalizes anything, and I don't think that it justifies anything, but I definitely do think that we need to be more aware that a lot of these people suffer from mental illness, and that's what plays into it. And so if we would address mental illness more in this country, then maybe we wouldn't have Richard Allen Davis or John Wayne Gacy, Richard Ramirez, David Berkowitz, Charles Manson. Like I can look at the wall here.
Right. Just go
Ow,
off.
damn it.
Ooh,
I
Not-
gotta
not the funny bone.
yeah, I
Back away
gotta
from the
move
desk.
away from the table. But yeah, like I just feel like this is a point for mental health awareness as well.
1000%. I mean, I work in the mental health field as my day job, so
Yeah.
like, we're always like, mental health matters. Like, normalize therapy. Go to therapy. Everybody needs therapy.
Yeah, I need to start going back to therapy. The last therapist I tried, I think she was like Ukrainian or something. So there was a bit of a language barrier, and like she was also
That's an
very
issue.
anti-weed, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't.
Therapy shopping is like a job within itself.
Yeah.
Like therapist shopping, it takes forever. But once you find a good one,
Yeah.
you find them.
Okay, so he heard the voice, right? Davis also stated that Frances wanted it and was only protesting for the sake of appearance, which is like typical disgusting male
Right.
BS.
Yeah. Ew.
Yeah. Of course, the train wreck isn't over yet. 3 months later, in December of 1976, Davis faked a suicide attempt in order to be transferred to Napa State Hospital, where it would be easier to attempt an escape. Yeah. After making his escape, he began a days-long crime spree when, on December 16th, Davis broke into the Napa home of Marjorie Mitchell and beat her on the head with a fireplace poker while she slept.
Jeez.
Yeah, it gets rough. After she screamed, Davis dropped the poker and walked out of the room. Mitchell, her head bleeding, went to the bathroom to get a towel and saw him standing at the end of the hallway. Mitchell began walking towards him, but he fled. Number one, the fact that she had the courage to walk towards him after
Right.
that, I'm like, all right, cool.
She was like, not today.
she's like bleeding, just pouring blood from her head. And she's like, you,
Right.
come here. I would run too.
Yeah.
Davis later told police that he was surprised Mitchell was still alive. He said he had intended to look for her car keys, but he forgot about the keys after he hit her. Davis explained that he had hit her to relieve tension and that committing violent acts was, quote, how he relieved tension.
Oof.
He's quoted as saying, "It felt good. I felt glowing. We both got something out of it."
Ow.
That made me
Ew,
cringe. That literally
yeah.
made me cringe.
That's like spine tingle right there.
Yeah, so that was a quote he had said to Dr. Panomareff. Yeah.
We're just gonna do our best on that one.
Yeah. I have a
Davis
running.
he's a creep.
Yeah, he
essentially.
definitely
He's
he's definitely a sexual predator. He's a
Yeah.
creep. He's just violent for no reason. Definitely not should be out on the streets for any
No.
reason. Like, if anything, he should be in a mental health care facility, like getting treatment or anything
Yeah.
like that. But he should definitely have been in prison still.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is the 70s.
True.
So-
I mean, the heyday, the golden age of
Right.
crime.
But I mean, look at what 10 years ago, what mental health awareness looked like compared to today. I mean, think about
Also
50,
true.
60 years ago.
Oh, God. And it's so weird to
Jesus.
think that that's 50, 60 years ago now.
The
Like-
90s were 10 years ago. No, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's how I feel. I'm like, I'm stuck in the 90s. I'm wearing a freaking All Real Monsters shirt, like, but yeah, no, it's weird to think that it was that long ago.
I just got a 90s cartoon tattoo last weekend.
Nice.
It's very itchy right now.
Which cartoon?
Oh, I got him from the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh
I
my
think I
God,
might see
yes.
it the way that I'm sitting, but
Oh my God, yes, that's great. Okay, on December 20th, 1976, Davis broke into 40-year-old Hazel Frost's car, pointed a shotgun at her neck, and told her to drive to Santa Rosa. Number one, where is he getting these shotguns and like...
right.
Again, 70s.
Right,
Probably
I was
way,
like, I-
way easier to get a gun back
I cannot
then.
speak to what gun control looked like in the 70s.
no. There wasn't gun control in the
Right.
70s. After a half-hour drive, he ordered her into a dark gas station, and he pulled out white tape or gauze from his pocket. Frost rolled out of the car, grabbing a gun she kept underneath the seat. Again, these survival instincts are so on point with
He
some of
keeps
these people.
fucking with the wrong bitch.
Yeah, he keeps picking the final girl and
Yeah.
thinking he's gonna get away with it.
Right.
So she grabs the gun, and as Davis flees, she fires 4 or 5 times at him. He later told police that he wanted Frost's car to get to San Mateo County, and told Dr. Panomareff that before his attack on Frost, he had again heard the voice of a woman wondering, what would it like to be kidnapped and assaulted? He told another court-appointed psychiatrist that he had decided he would, quote, have some fun with the lady, and assumed that from her attire and her single status that she was looking for the same.
Okay. It's like the just strictest definition of rape culture right there.
Yeah.
Like, clothing does not mean you're asking for it. Nobody's fucking asking for it.
No,
Come on.
No, nobody's asking for it. Nobody deserves it. Nobody
No.
wants it.
Nope.
Anyway. On December 21st, 1976, Josephine Krieger, a bank employee, returned to her La Honda home in San Mateo County and discovered that it had been ransacked with some of her jewelry and coins missing. Responding police officers found Richard Allen Davis hiding under a bush with an unloaded shotgun on the ground next to him and 2 knives on his person. Davis admitted he had burglarized Krieger's home. So, was the shotgun even loaded the first time when he tried to...
You just walk around with a fucking empty
Right?
gun. Like,
And then, like,
I
so
mean,
when
to
Chick
be
had
fair,
a... When
if somebody
she...
points a gun at me, I'm not gonna be like, hold on, let me check
Right.
this load. I'll be like, okay.
That ain't loaded.
Right.
You ain't gonna do it.
Right. I'm not gonna, like,
I'm not trying to find
flaunt
out.
death in that way, man.
Yeah. I mean, I've had impulsive thoughts before, but no. Anyway. He explained that he had intended to wait for the residents to return home, at which time he planned to tie them up and steal their car, but that he gave up on the plan when more people than he expected came home.
I was about to say, like, how many people are you waiting for?
Right. He's like, I just need like a good 2 people. Just
Like,
just a
I could
solid
take 'em.
couple. I'll take
Right.
2 people, tie them up, steal their car.
Right.
Oh, there's 3 people? I gotta go.
Fuck them out. It sounds like it's all very randomized. Like, he's definitely not, like,
there's
stalking people.
Yeah,
to
there's
find out
no,
what's
I don't
going
think there,
on.
I think it's very much crimes of opportunity for him. It's just like, oh, hey, I'm here and I want this car.
So he just left with the shotgun for the day and he's walking around the neighborhood like, yeah, that house looks cool.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and then like Richard Ramirez was super random like that too. Like there was
Yeah.
no method. There was no like,
It wasn't like stalking his
Yeah.
victims to like learn their routine or
which is
anything
ironic
like that.
because he was called the Night Stalker.
Right.
Davis later also told Dr. The doctor. He told the doctor that he thought there were people
Call him
inside
Dr.
the
P.
Yeah, Dr. P. He told Dr. P that he thought there were people inside the Krieger home who wanted to be tied up.
Oh.
I mean, you could at least ask him first.
Consent's a thing.
Yeah, consent is sexy, you know?
Yeah. And mandatory, you know?
Yeah. Davis told a court-appointed psychiatrist that he masturbates twice daily while thinking of the female victims of his past crimes and that he imagines tying them up. Again, not somebody that should be roaming the streets of anywhere for any reason.
We, at this point, are far beyond, like, 3 strikes.
Yeah, I feel like at this point they should just put him away.
Right.
Just never let him out.
Dude's got issues. Somebody get him help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet, despite this crime spree and his clear pattern of violent and sexually aggressive behavior, Richard Allen Davis was paroled on June 27th, 1993. In early July 1993, Davis gained admission into the Turning Point shelter in San Mateo. For a second, I thought this was Turning Point, which is like the drug treatment program in the Bay Area.
There's also a Turning Point in Sacramento, and there used to be a Tahoe Turning Point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because like I don't know
if they're all connected, but
well, this one says it's a transitional housing facility for the homeless, whereas like I know
it's the same services the Sacramento one does. And
yeah, but I know
they
that
do,
the
like,
one in
therapy.
San Francisco was like super intense. Like
Right.
I remember because I was in Walden House out there,
Oh, okay.
and so there was a guy that was in Turning Point, and he was like, "Dude, that place tears you apart."
Oh shit.
Like there's this thing they do where like they put a chair in the middle of the circle of people and then like you sit in that chair like if you fucked up or something and like they just tear into you and berate you and like tell you everything that's wrong with you because their whole concept is like you have to break these people down as a person before you can build them back up. Yeah, it's
not the proper therapeutic approach by any means, but okay.
Yeah.
Again, 90s.
Actually, this was 2009, 2010.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. But apparently this is just a homeless shelter. While at Turning Point, he initially worked at a precision sheet metal company and later as a painter. On the weekend of August 21st to 23rd, Davis took a bus to visit his sister and brother-in-law, Darlene and Richard Schwann, who lived on the Coyote Valley Indian Reservation in Ukiah. The bus stopped at a depot in Petaluma near Walnut Park and Wickersham Park. Wickersham Pack or Park? It says Pack, but I think
I don't think there's... Oh, no, Wickersham Park. Yeah, they're like 2 blocks away from each other.
which were frequented by transients and drug users.
Still a fact.
This is when Davis first starts to appear in Petaluma. That same weekend, Davis bought Richard Schwann's 1979 Ford Pinto hatchback, after which he quit his job. He used the car to make several trips to Ukiah to visit the Schwanns from September through November 1993. At least 4 witnesses saw Davis loitering around Walnut Park and Wickersham Park in Petaluma during August and September of 1993. He stood out because of his disheveled appearance, his yellow headband, his heavily tattooed arms, public drinking, and his peppered gray hair and beard. So definitely a noticeable guy.
Yeah, not your... Back then, not
I
your
also
typical guy in Petaluma.
just picture like this like super dirty greasy yellow headband that like he never takes off, and then like he's just got like this gross hair that like ugh.
Like it used to be bright yellow, but now it's kind of dingy.
Yeah, it's just like, and then just like everything about him is dingy. Like,
Yeah.
It's just a good way to describe
Well, I mean, his
him.
court pictures don't look too great. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. He was not a great looking guy.
He just looked disheveled and he looked like a hot mess. But
Yeah. He was a hot mess.
I guess prison will do that to you.
Yeah. On either September 30th or October 1st, 1993, Davis entered the Seductions adult store in Ukiah and bought a blue Rough Rider condom that the proprietor, Jeanette Turner, was pretty sure was studded or ribbed. Seems random now, but this will come into play later in the story and during the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we have laid the background of what kind of a piece of work that Richard Allen Davis was, let's talk about the night that poor little Polly Klaas was taken from her home. This is such a heavy story.
I know, it's so intense. I was like, damn, I picked a depressing as fuck topic. I was just like, that's the one, I know that, like,
right?
well.
And that's why I always like to ask people if there's a topic that they really want to cover, because that's when I get to hear, other perspectives of a case that somebody is like really, knowledgeable about or passionate about.
Well, it was a really influential case and
yeah.
so many facets, really.
Yeah.
People, and I think that like a lot of people don't really even know about it.
Right, and that's we had discussed that, where it was like, I'm sure if you mentioned the name to most people now, they wouldn't know who you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
I mean, unless they
damn near 30 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly, and that's God, so weird.
I know.
Been dealing a lot with like age crisis lately, where you're just like, oh my God, I was born in the last century.
Yeah.
I
I work with kids and they're like, oh, you were born in the 1900s.
Right.
I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
Fuck you.
The end of the 1900s.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm like, don't talk to me like that. I am your elder.
That's like, I always claimed to be a 90s kid, even though I was born in 89, because like I was born in October of 89. So it's like as close to the end as
You're on the cusp.
Yeah, I'm a cusp. There we go. I'm a 90s baby cusp. All right.
I was born in the 90s. So
Yeah.
I'm like, 90s baby is fine. Shush.
Yeah. Well, and then like that's how I always say is like, all right, well, I was born in the 80s, but the 90s raised me,
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Eve Nickel lived with her daughters, 12-year-old Polly Klaas and 6-year-old Annie, in a small 3-bedroom house in Petaluma near Walnut Park and Wickersham Park. On Friday, October 1st, 1943, Polly had a slumber party at her home with 2 classmates, 12-year-old Katie M. and Jillian P. Jillian, my bad. Jillian arrived between 7 and 7:15. After a few minutes, she and Polly walked to a nearby convenience store, bought popsicles, and returned home. Their walk took them past Wickersham Park. Just before Kate arrived, Jillian and Polly went out to the front doorstep to wait for Kate. Between 8 and 9 p.m., Kate arrived with her mother. As Kate's mother got back into her car, which was blocking the sidewalk, she saw a man walking straight at her vehicle as if he was going to crash into it, so she jerked her car forward. The man wore dark clothing. He had rather bushy gray-brown hair, possibly swept back in a ponytail, and he was carrying something that looked like a bag. 13-year-old Kamika Milstead, a nearby resident, had also seen this man get out of his car and head down the same sidewalk, carrying a bag or box. Meanwhile, the 3 girls played in Polly's bedroom. As Halloween was a few weeks away, Kate, who was dressed as a hippie, and Jillian applied makeup to Polly's face to make her look dead. That didn't age well.
No.
Yeah, no. Polly later changed into a white cotton denim skirt and a pink blouse that was tied into a knot in front. I mean, it's the 90s. Everybody wanted to be Britney Spears.
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
Britney, bitch.
And removed most of the makeup. Around 10 p.m., Nickel told the girls not to stay up too late and to keep the noise down as she and Annie were going to bed. Nichols went to her bedroom, which was separated from Polly's bedroom by a bathroom and another bedroom. She read in bed for a few minutes with Annie next to her, and she and Annie then fell asleep. There are a few articles that say that the mom might have taken some sleeping medication or prescription pills that might have prevented her from waking up. But I don't really feel like this is... I mean, granted, you probably shouldn't take sleeping medication when you're having a sleepover with other people's kids in your house.
That's valid.
But I also feel like there's no guarantee that even if she hadn't taken those pills, she would have heard anything.
Some people are just deep sleepers.
I slept through a really big earthquake when I was a little baby. I slept through a tornado when I was a kid.
I slept through a 5.6 earthquake.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I sleep like the dead.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, gotta make sure my shit's locked.
Right.
So
Exactly. It's like,
somebody
I
broke in
won't
my
know
house,
somebody's
I
coming to
wouldn't
kill
hear
me.
it. Also, my neighbors are stupid loud, so I would just be like, oh, it's the neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, where was I? Right. So the pills things. Okay. So from 10 p.m. to 10:30, the girls played board games and video games. Around the same time, nearby resident Talia Miller was returning from a movie with her uncle. As her uncle was about to drop her off, Talia saw a man carrying a duffel bag and walking towards her house. Because Talia was leery of the homeless people, she asked her uncle to wait until the, quote, scary-looking man passed the car. As he passed, he looked into the car and slid his hand over his face as if to conceal it. The man was wearing dark clothing. He had combed back collar-length dark hair and a gray patched beard. Around this same time, Sean Bush, Aaron Thomas, and Thomas's girlfriend were watching a movie in Thomas's granny unit behind Polly's home. So definitely a lot of people saw him in the area.
Like creeping for hours.
Yeah, the description matches point on. The peppered gray hair, the disheveled appearance, like this was Richard Allen Davis, no denying it.
Right.
Here's what I have an issue with this next one though. So it says while Bush smoked a cigarette in Thomas's doorway, he could see Thomas's bathroom, which was separately located on Nichols' back porch.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out like the housing setup here to
Right.
where like this dude's bathroom is on somebody else's porch.
Well, like the property, because I mean, Klaas's house was on 4th Street, and the properties, they're old homes over there. A lot of that neighborhood's like old Victorian homes,
Yeah.
old craftsmen, a lot of them have grand units, and like
Okay.
typically they're all just kind of intertwined, and like the property lines are weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know
so
the
that
neighborhood
makes a
well.
little more sense
Yeah,
too.
it's one of those just like old neighborhoods, where it was probably back in the day, because I mean, Petaluma has a river that runs through it. It was probably a mining area at some point, and a lot of things have come through there. So I'm sure
True.
at some point it was just like houses for employees or slaves or God knows what.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense as far as like figuring out the layout here. But I still have an issue with the fact that this dude just is like, meh.
Yeah.
So so at about 10:30 p.m., Bush saw the same man that everyone else had seen walking calmly and slowly up the stairs towards Thomas's bathroom. When the man noticed Bush looking at him, he turned his head away and reached for the bathroom door. Bush described the man as stocky with very thick and wiry hair that was styled straight back and lighter on top than the bottom. Unaware that anything unusual was occurring, Bush resumed watching the movie.
Some dude just walked up your stairs and like reached for the bathroom. Like, that's fucking weird, man.
Right. It's like, it doesn't matter. And like, especially if it is the bathroom for your granny unit. So like, if you don't know that guy, there's no reason for him to be going there.
Right. Like some rando is on your property and you're just like, whatever.
Trying to watch Pulp Fiction, man.
Right.
Jeez.
Jeez.
Meanwhile, the girls decided to set up their sleeping bags. When Polly opened the bedroom door to retrieve the sleeping bags, she discovered Davis in the doorway holding a knife and a bag. Davis said, "Don't scream or I'll slit your throats," and promised not to hurt them if they did what he asked. He told the girls to lie face down on the floor and not look at him.
And it was actually, the knife he had was actually a knife from their kitchen.
Oh.
Yeah. Supposedly.
Well, and again, like
I don't know like how factual that part is, but
we were saying it's always like crimes of opportunity where it's just
Right.
like, oh, here's a fireplace poker.
right.
Yeah,
because he like broke into their house and like apparently grabbed a knife from their kitchen. So it's like,
oh, jeez.
it just adds to level of like fucked up.
Right. He's like, he didn't even bring his own weapon. He was just like,
Right.
you're going to provide your own.
Right. That steak knife looks cool.
Yeah. So Jillian and Kate initially thought the defendant was a friend. Davis. It says defendant in a lot of it because,
Court papers.
Yeah. Thought Davis was a friend of Polly and her family who was engaging in a prank. Davis asked, "Where are the valuables?" He repeatedly told them not to be scared and that he was only doing this for the money. Which, I mean, that did seem to be like the motive of a lot of his crimes, as well as like stealing a car or stealing something. Like theft was also like
stealing jewelry and coins.
Yeah.
Well, and he doesn't have a job, so.
Yeah. I can't imagine that he would be able to hold a job for very long.
Not with how much he's getting arrested. I mean.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So apparently Davis wondered aloud why there were so many people present and expressed surprise when Polly told him that her mother was in the house. So it almost sounds like he had been kind of casing the place, over time, because how would he know who's supposed to be in the house? How many people are supposed to be there? Like the fact
they had a pretty big house. Like it wasn't a small little dinky thing.
Yeah. So then why would you be surprised there's more people in the house?
Right. It's a big place.
Right. He's like, there should only be 2 people here.
Doesn't make sense.
No. I mean, a lot of what he does and says does not make any sense,
No, there's zero logic.
Yeah. Polly said that there was money in her jewelry box and asked him not to hurt her mother and sister. Davis was calm at first, but he sounded more frantic as events unfolded. All 3 girls lay down in a row on Polly's bedroom floor, and Davis tied their hands using a silky cloth. Cords cut from Polly's Nintendo machine, and a strap from Polly's leather purse. So again, things that are on hand.
Yeah.
He also gagged them with silky cloths. He removed the cases from pillows in the bedroom and placed them over the girls' heads. At that point, Jillian no longer believed it was a joke. I would have thought that a long time ago. But I mean, again, you're a 12-year-old girl.
12-year-old girl.
Yeah. In the
90s.
In the 90s.
But, I don't know.
So Davis told the girls that he was going to take Polly to show him where the valuables were, and that he would then return Polly to Jillian and Kate, and that he would be gone after they counted to 1,000. Davis then took Polly out of the room, promising he would not touch her. At that point, Davis had been in the bedroom for approximately 10 minutes. After a few minutes counting with no sign of Polly, Jillian and Kate freed themselves, went to Nichols' bedroom, and told her what had happened. After they all unsuccessfully searched for Polly around the house, Eve Nichols called 911 around 11 p.m. Nichols did not find any personal property missing from the home, but a pair of red leggings was later discovered missing from a chest of drawers in the bedroom. So this kind of invalidates his claim that he was doing it for valuables.
Right.
Because nothing was missing from the home.
Right. Or he just got so freaked out. He's like, no, I'm kidnapping a kid. Who knows? But his motives were definitely twisted and fucked.
Yeah. It's like whatever mental illness he had. So it's like schizophrenia mixed with some ADHD.
Right.
He's just like, I'm here to rob you. No, wait, I'm here to kidnap you. No, wait, I'm here to kill you.
Right. Maybe we're going to do all of it. Shit, you don't have any jewelry. I'm out.
Oh, God. I mean, if he'd only left, that would have been like the best case scenario.
Right. Like, why are you taking this child if you're trying to rob him?
Yeah.
Like, robbery to kidnapping's quite the fucking
It's
jump.
a jump. It's a jump. It's a serious jump.
Yeah. You went from 0 to 60 real quick. Like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm here for cash and jewelry. I'm just going to kidnap you instead. Like, what was going through his head? I mean, will anybody ever know? Who knows?
No. That same night, police would actually have an encounter with Richard Allen Davis. And by this point, Polly Klaas was not with him. Dana Jaffe lived with her 12-year-old daughter on a 192-acre parcel in Sonoma County between Santa Rosa and Sonoma, on a rural hillside past the end of Pythian Road. Mm-hmm. Number one, let's talk about 192 acres.
It's a lot of fucking
That
property.
is a lot of fucking property. And like, I don't think some people realize how much property that is, because like, I lived on a house with a half-acre yard, and I thought that was a huge yard.
Right. I mean, that is a pretty big yard. Like, I mean, an acre's roughly the size of a football field.
Yeah, so it's like, 192 acres.
Yeah. That's a lot of property. And, like, Python Road out in Santa Rosa is, like, the cut.
Yeah.
It's, like, really deep out there. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's no reason to be out there unless you live out there.
Yeah.
Really.
Especially and it's nighttime. It's not like you're going
especially
for
in the middle of
a
the night.
Scenic drive. Yeah.
So, from its intersection with State Highway 12, Pythian Road proceeds northward. At its end is a series of steep curving and narrow private roads, one of which leads to Jaffe's home. No trespassing signs were clearly posted on the private road leading to Jaffe's property, and her house was several hundred yards past the gate. About 10:45 or 11 p.m. on October 1st, 1993, Jaffe arrived home from work and relieved her babysitter, Shannon Lynch. At about 11:15 or 11:20 p.m., Lynch began driving away from the Jaffe residence, and while still behind the gate, she saw Davis's Ford Pinto wedged against an embankment and stuck in a ditch, with Davis hunched over the rear bumper. As she drove up, Davis appeared surprised to see someone else on the darkened road. Lynch stopped her car, and Davis approached. He had bad breath and body odor, with leaves embedded in his hair as if he had been caught in the brush, and he was wearing a dark-colored, long-sleeved sweatshirt that was inside out. Sketchy.
Right.
Like, the whole thing just automatically screams
Right.
suspicious.
Well, his car's, like, in a ditch, and, like, why do you have leaves in your hair?
Right, like,
you've been running through the brush.
The inside-out sweater instantly makes me think there was, like, blood on it.
Right.
Or something.
You got dressed quickly.
Yeah.
Or undressed and redressed quickly.
Yeah, that part. She asked what he was doing, and he replied, "I'm stuck. I need some rope." When Lynch called...
The car's in a ditch. I mean, I guess a Pinto's not that big, but...
I mean, true. I feel like a Pinto, you probably just, like...
yank it out.
Yeah. Like those movies where you just see the guy just, like, push it up. And just,
right.
Like, pick up the thing from under the car. You know?
Oh, my God.
When Lynch called Davis illiterate for not obeying the private road signs, he placed his hand on her window, told her to get out of her car, and demanded to know what's up the road. Lynch remained in her car and told him there were people up the road who would call the police. She then drove off. Frightened and upset, Lynch quickly drove to the nearest payphone because remember, this is 1993. You can't just call her on your cell phone.
Right. Nobody had a cell phone.
Drove to the nearest payphone and at 11:24 p.m. called Jaffe, urging her to call the police about a scary guy on her hill. Concerned about being alone with her young daughter, Jaffe dressed and got into her car with her daughter. As they drove down their private road, they saw Davis's car, but saw no one on the road. Jaffe drove to a payphone and called the police at 11:46 p.m. Some 15 minutes later, Sonoma County Sheriff's deputies Mike Rankin and Thomas Howard arrived in separate cars and met Jaffe at the intersection of Pythian Road and Highway 12. Because the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department used different radio frequencies, deputies Rankin and Howard were unaware of Polly's abduction. Jaffe led the officers back up the road where they found Davis leaning against his car, smoking a cigarette. Not a care in the world. And it's like so weird that so she drove out, he's not there.
Right.
Drives out, meets the cops, comes back, and he's there.
Right. And it's
So-
like, why are you just chilling smoking a cigarette, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and the whole interaction between him and the cops is just kind of like,
oh God, it's painful.
yeah,
It's painful. Like, there's so many signs.
yeah, so
from
many
their
things that are
interaction.
wrong with it, so many things that the cops should have asked about or looked into. They
Mhm.
should have at least ran his fucking name.
They did. They
But-
actually ran him, and he came up clear. No warrants, no anything.
But he was
And that
on parole.
Right. And but they ran him and nothing came up, and that's why they were just like, they just did like a field interrogation
Oh,
report
jeez.
and submitted that, and that was it. But he's sitting there brushing twigs and leaves and shit in his hair. They said it was like a really cool night. I mean, it's October in the Bay Area. It's
Yeah.
nice and cool at night, and he's sweating profusely. He's like not coherent.
He's dirty, sweaty.
Right. And he
Yeah.
actually had an open container of alcohol in the car, which was the only violation they saw. But because he wasn't actively driving, they just made him dump it out. And then like he dumped it out in front of them, and they were like, all right, get the fuck out of here. Like, so much.
Well, and like, again, a running theme back then, especially with the police, was like they just didn't think to follow through on some of these things, or to
Right.
like to do the digging, or the, you know, there was plenty of times where Ramirez should have been caught, and there's
Mhm.
plenty of times where fucking Bundy should have been caught.
Yep.
And like there's all these times where it's like they had interactions with the police at really, really prime moments that could have been crucial to stopping them. I
Yeah.
think even Dahmer, like there was multiple
Yeah,
times where
multiple
Dahmer,
times Dahmer
should have been caught.
and they just let him
Like
go.
what was like the 16-year-old kid or the 14-year-old kid where he's like, oh no, this is my 19-year-old boyfriend.
Right. Like,
And they were
clearly
just like-
that is a child.
They were just like, we just don't want to deal with it because like they're gay.
yeah. Oh, gay. It's
Yeah.
the gay thing.
Yeah, so stupid. Okay, so Jaffe told Davis he was on posted private property. Davis acknowledged the signs, but claimed that he had tried to turn and become stuck in the ditch. Leaves, twigs, and other debris were in his hair and clinging to his socks. Okay, that's
Like,
also super
you've been
sketchy.
up in it.
You were all up in the woods doing something.
Yeah, just like trying to get your car out.
Yeah, and he was wearing a yellow and blue striped, long-sleeved button-down shirt, so he's lost the sweater by this point.
Right.
Jaffe told him the officers would help him, and she went home. Deputies Howard and Rankin spoke to Davis, who smelled of alcohol and appeared to be sweating profusely. Deputy Rankin patted Davis down and noticed that Davis's pants were wet, but his shirt was not. Again, red flag.
Like, what's going on here? Like,
He's just standing here waving the red flags, and they're just
Right.
like, oh, he's doing a ribbon dance.
Right. Oh, wow. He's doing a fan dance for us. It's really cool.
Oh, man. So, Davis asked the officers, what the fuck are you guys doing here? And Rankin explained that the property owner wanted him removed for trespassing. Davis claimed he was passing through the area from Oakland on the way to see a relative in Redwood Valley and had pulled off road to do some sightseeing.
At 11
11:30
something
at
at
night.
night, and you're in the cut on the 12, which, like, Highway 12 is off. Like, I mean, it intersects with 101, but the section that he's at is not necessarily like a rock and a skip, you
Yeah.
know? Like, ugh.
He claimed that he had tried placing dirt or brush under his car's wheels to get traction. The deputies, however, saw very little indication of any dirt or other debris placed under the wheels. Deputy Rankin ran a check of defendant's license plate, but he had transposed some of the numbers and did not notice that the car was not registered to Davis. Davis said he was not on parole and had never been to prison. Liar.
Liar.
You damn dirty liar.
For real.
Although the defendant smelled of alcohol, Deputy Howard did not think that he was intoxicated based on the deputy's observations of Davis's pupils, balance, and speech. During a consent search of Davis's Pinto, the deputies found a paper bag on the floorboard with 3 or 4 unopened Budweiser beer cans, as well as 2 bags containing clothes, some of which appeared to be torn. Weird.
See, I thought the containers were open. I guess
Well,
they were unopened.
As the 2 deputies discussed ways to free Davis's car and made unsuccessful attempts to the effect, Davis became more relaxed. At one point, Davis opened a can of beer and began drinking it, but Deputy Rankin told him to pour it out.
Help me get my car out so I can drive away. Also, let me chug this beer in front of you.
Yeah, let me
Like,
drink this
what?
beer so I can get in my car and drive away.
There's zero logic in any of
He's
his
like, so you
approach,
weren't
truly."
gonna get me for the DUI, but now you can.
Right.
After borrowing a chain from the property owner, Jaffe, the 2 deputies pulled Davis's car off of the embankment and out of the ditch. While Deputy Howard returned Jaffe's chain, Deputy Rankin escorted Rankin, escorted Davis as he drove down Pythian Road to Highway 12. When both deputies drove onto Highway 12 from Pythian Road, they saw Davis parked near the intersection. At 12:46 a.m. on Saturday, October 2nd, 1993, deputies cleared the incident with dispatch.
Like, just so much right there.
Yeah.
And I get, like, from what I know, they, the deputies were also trying to get Gaffey to press charges for trespassing, but she was like, nah, I just don't want anything to do with it. Just get him the fuck out.
Yeah, just get him out of here.
Like, essentially, it's probably not exactly what she said, but, but, like, they were even pushing for her to, like, press charges. Like, dude, this dude's on your property,
Yeah.
But, like, she's like, nah. Again, like, another incident where he could have been stopped, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially if they had thought to question him further or at least look into the surrounding area, because, like, clearly he was off of the road doing something.
Right. And, like, she wasn't in the car.
Yeah.
So, like, he had stashed her body, supposedly in the brush nearby.
Yeah. So if they had just looked around or, like, just a little deeper.
So much could have been avoided.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, so much.
Well, I think this is a good time to take a little break, ask a couple more questions that are unrelated to Moida, and then we'll get back into it.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy topic.
A little bit. Okay, so obviously the Scream Queens being a horror-based kind of deal.
Yeah.
How long have you been a horror movie lover and aficionado?
Not really super long. Like, I mean, I think people would probably assume forever, but actually when I was, like, younger, like a kid, I hated horror movies, fun fact. It was too much for me. But as I got older, I started to get really into it. The first horror movie I actually ever saw was Halloween.
Okay.
So I have a very deep-rooted love for Michael, because that was one of the first horror series I ever got into. And then I remember flipping through, movie channels back when that was more of a thing. I don't know. Some people still have cable. I think that's one of the things I miss about cable is, like, movie channels. But I was flipping through movie channels and I came across this movie and I'm like, what the fuck is this? We didn't even have, like, TV Guide back then, So I was like, had no idea what this movie was called that I was watching, but I was like, this movie's fucked up, da da da. Turns out it was House of a Thousand Corpses. I didn't know what it was called, and I just knew that, like, randomly at this time of night, this movie would come on, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, this movie's fucked up. Rob Zombie, iconic. I love that he puts his wife in everything.
Right. Oh my god, I saw
but
this.
I mean, if my wife was Sherry Moon, I'd put her in everything too.
I saw this like meme, and it was like a comic strip of this like executive board meeting, and they're all sitting around talking, and they're like, "Yeah, so I'm really excited to hear about his new movie. I just really hope he doesn't put his fucking wife in it." And then the other guy goes, "Yeah, he puts her in fucking everything." Yeah, and then he comes in, he's like, "All right, so Sherry's gonna be."
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she's great. Whatever.
Yeah.
Haters are gonna hate.
Right. I honestly have.
But those were kind of my first two movies.
Nice. I have honestly kind of loved everything Rob Zombie's done.
Yeah, I mean, no hate on John Carpenter, but Rob Zombie's Halloween is my absolute favorite. I mean, annihilated it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely annihilated it.
Yeah.
Very disappointed with the last two Halloweens, personally. Yeah. I don't care if I get hate for that. They weren't my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I was kind of like,
Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends, like yeah. Me and my last roommate went to go see Halloween Ends, and we left the theater, and we just talked shit about it for the whole, like, 20-minute drive home. We're just like, dude, it's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of...
It was just kind of disappointing. I don't know. It didn't have the same vibe, Like, there was so many points, and Jamie Lee Curtis is the ultimate final girl, I love me some Jamie Lee, but, I don't know, it just didn't hit for me.
No,
Just a really
especially
good
because like for I think what was it like a good chunk of the movie, she's not even like doing anything. She's like stuck in a hospital or some
Yeah,
shit.
she's like,
So it's like
she's like all laid up,
right.
and I'm like,
So it's
where's
like
Jamie Lee? It's supposed to be like Jamie Lee versus Michael,
yeah,
you know, like
this was supposed to be the final showdown.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
not my favorite one.
No.
Not my favorite one, but Rob Zombie's was the best. But yeah, those were kind of the first two horror movies that I ever watched, and then like slowly got into it. You know, I went 80s slashers are always a jam.
Nice.
So like
yeah.
obviously I love me some Jason, I love Freddy, you know, all of that. Scream, Ghostface is like one of my favorites. It's just utterly ridiculous.
right.
I have a true love for movies that are just so fucking ridiculous. Like as much as I love horror, my jam is like really shitty action movies. Like,
I was about to say
I will watch them
Speaking on really shitty
relentlessly.
horror movies and like really ridiculous movies, have you ever seen The Greasy Strangler?
No.
Oh my
I
god!
don't think I've ever heard of that.
Okay, so unfortunately, it is one of the weirdest, like cringiest, like movies that we have ever watched.
Okay.
Like me and Ashley, we stumbled upon it one day.
Oh, those are the best.
And
You're just like, what the fuck is that?
so the film style is like very like not like good, not like it's intentionally bad like camera work, and it's
Okay.
just like very like grainy and like old school feel to it.
Mhm.
And it's about this guy who lives with his dad, right? And he's like this big, like loser nerd kind of guy
Okay.
that just like has no self-esteem, doesn't stand up for himself, and his dad's just this like old crotchety guy, right?
Stereotypical character.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like it's very like ridiculous and stereotypical in some ways, but like then it just gets like a sharp left turn into what the fuck are we watching? So apparently there's this murderer out called the Greasy Strangler, and he, you know,
It just sounds gross.
yeah, so there's the opening scene basically is the kid and his dad, or the guy and his dad, and like he's making breakfast for his dad or whatever, and his dad just keeps asking him to put more grease in everything. He's like, I want grease in my coffee, and he's like, I need
Ew.
more grease, give me more grease. And he's like, oh,
Get your arteries
okay
checked, my
dad,
dude.
okay dad, I'll give you more grease. And then he's like, I bet you think I'm the Greasy Strangler now, don't ya? And the kid's like, not what I was thinking at all, but like now I'm kind of like, huh?
Not the direction I was going. Now you mention it.
Right. And so it just it
I will have to look it up.
yeah, you'll have to look it
I'll
up,
have to
and
look
I'm
it up.
sorry that I made you look it up. There's definitely some really random scenes. Yeah.
I will have to put that on my watch list because it
It's-
sounds utterly ridiculous
it
and
is.
horrible.
Although I cannot stop quoting it. I have used
That's the
sound clips from it in my episodes.
Oh my god.
Because there's
yes.
this scene where him and his dad are arguing with each other, and he's like, bullshit artist, and he's like, you're a bullshit artist, and he's like, you're a bullshit artist, and he's like, BULLSHITARTIST, what's that spell? Bullshit artist. And it's just so fucking ridiculous.
You're just like, what are we watching?
Yeah.
Somebody approved this.
Yeah,
Like,
somebody wrote this, somebody thought this was a good idea, and then somebody made it.
whenever I watch shit like that, I always am like thinking somebody went into a boardroom
And pitched
with this idea, pitched it, and these people in the room were like, yes,
Sold.
fucking let's do it. How much money do you need? Here's a blank check, you know? And it's
Oh,
but it's
fuck.
usually like low budget.
True.
Have you ever
it definitely
seen
was.
Velocipaster?
I've seen it on the streaming site. I have not watched it.
It is so fucking bad. Like, you have to watch it because it's so bad. Like
Alright.
it's horrible, and like they didn't even try with the graphics. Like it's this really shitty Velociraptor
God.
costume, and it's awful. But it's like get really ripped and then watch it, because that's what I did, and I was cry laughing because it's so bad. It's supposed to be
Alright.
kind of like a horror movie. It's not really.
All right, I'm gonna have to check that out.
I think it's on Amazon Prime.
That's where I've seen it on.
Yeah.
I've always been
That's what I
tempted,
watch
but
on.
I'm like, I don't
It's
know.
so bad. It's gonna change your life. I don't know necessarily for the better, but
I mean, that's sometimes like I said, Greasy Strangler might do the same.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like,
You never know. There's also that movie Creep. Have you ever watched that? I think it's on Netflix still. Is that what I watched it on?
have I seen that
It's
one?
it's a fucking trip. It's a horror movie, like in a suspense horror kind of way, but it's just fucking weird. The guy's a creep. Like, literally, he's just a fucking creep and murdery. And, like, one of my old friends showed it to me. And I just sat there the whole time and was like, what the fuck? And then I would just, like, look at what the fuck? The whole time, just like, what the fuck is happening? And then it just ends. And you're sitting there like, that's it? It's bad. And then there's the second one. And it's even worse.
Well, that's always great when bad movies get a sequel.
Oh, yeah. You know? Yeah. I mean, they've made like 10 Fast and Furiouses, so that's my guilty pleasure, though.
I mean, I keep watching them just because I feel like I have to finish it now. I have to follow through. But I wish they had stopped like 4 movies ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they should have stopped at 3, honestly. That's when it stopped being even remotely a pinch of good. But I love them.
Yeah.
I watch every single one of them. Also, I'm just like Vin Diesel being ridiculous and The Rock. I love The Rock in general.
Okay, but
they
really kind of lost me when Vin Diesel just straight on like palmed a car and stopped it from taking him out.
Well, it's Vin Diesel, you know. So. It's just
True,
Vin Diesel.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love bad movies.
Yeah.
So in a way, that kind of got me into horror in a weird, fucked up way. I don't know if there's an actual correlation there, but
there might be.
Yeah. But now I've just, now my entire life kind of revolves around horror.
just to end it up that way.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love watching really fucked up movies. Terrifier actually got me over my fear of clowns. Weirdly enough, like I wouldn't say like a hardcore phobia of clowns, but I was like, ugh, clowns are kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And then I watched Terrifier and I was like, yeah. Actually, my show next week, I'm doing a Terrifier act.
No way.
Yeah.
See, so
I was working on it before I come over here.
What I'm thinking now is because next week I'm supposed to be recording with Vix, right? And so what I'm like, no, we might have to record earlier so we can go to the show after.
I mean, it's gonna be a pretty fucking awesome show.
Yeah. So I think we'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
We had mentioned Final Girls, and I remember that there was the Final Girl contest a while back.
Yeah.
Whatever happened with that?
I sadly got cut round, I don't know what. I made it pretty far. I honestly didn't expect to make it. Like my friend Frankie Vanity, who is a cosplay, she recently retired. She's an amazing fucking costumier and a dear friend. I love Frankie to death. Shout out Frankie. But she sent it to me when they first posted it, and she was like, girl, you totally gotta do this. It's your shit. And I was like, I don't know. And so I started following the page, and then I was like, fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
So I entered. It's free to enter. So I was like, whatever. But like, I made it kind of far, which I was surprised. I didn't think I was gonna make it that far, because I'm like, whatever, like, I don't think I'm that popular. Because things like that are a popularity contest, essentially. But what gets you is like you pay for votes. Like you get like a free vote a day, but then you can do like $50-$100 for like multitudes of votes. And it got down to the wire where like some of me and my friends were like, I just put $25 in for your votes, and it's like down to the minute. It's like counting down for the next round. And I was actually, so the round I got cut, I don't even remember what round it was. It was like round like 3 or 4 or something like that, because they do drastic cuts. I got into like the top 10 of my group, but I don't know how many groups. They don't tell you.
Wow.
But they let literally anybody in. Like there's no like pre-qualifying round to like then be like open to the public.
Yeah, you're just in.
It's just like you sign up and you're in, and you don't have to have like a horror thing. Like some of the profiles I was like, nothing about your page screams horror. Like, what the fuck?
Well, and it definitely doesn't scream Final Girl.
Yeah,
if anything, it's like, you're dying first.
Thank you.
Like, you're the white girl that's like, what was that?
Right.
I'll be right back, you guys.
I'm going to go by myself. I'm going to run and trip and fall in the woods.
Yeah.
Bitch is always tripping. But like, yeah, so there was, it felt weird in a way. They just reopened it this year and I applied again. Like 3 or 4 days ago. I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's see what happens this year. I don't know. I think it would be pretty awesome to do a photo shoot with Kane Hodder.
So everybody go out there and vote for Dani Demize as Final Girl.
I don't know when the voting
Whenever
opens.
voting is open, we will let you know.
It'll probably
I'll
open
keep you all
like
updated.
a month. Yeah.
I'll keep you
Follow
updated.
me on Instagram. I'll post about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I applied again. We'll see what happens this year.
Nice.
Maybe I'll make
Alright.
it. I would love
Alright.
to do a photo shoot with Kane Hodder in that house. That would be so amazing because it's in the Silence of the Lambs house.
Oh,
It's like in the
fuck.
actual house, and I'm like, oh, that'd be so fucking cool. I love that.
That would be
movie.
amazing.
Yeah, that would be super cool. And you get like a magazine cover and like spread, and you also get like $13,000, which would be really rad because I got a lot of burlesque stuff
way to bury
I wanna
the
buy.
lead there.
I know. I got a lot of burlesque stuff I would like to invest in, and it would be really awesome to reinvest in the troupe and really up our show production. So
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. Are we down to take a quick break? Head downstairs.
Sure. Sounds good.
Check in, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe food's ready. I don't know.
We'll find out.
We shall return. All right. We have returned. So let's see, where did we leave off? Right. Polly had officially been taken from her home by Richard Allen Davis. So the search for Polly gained national attention. During the early stages of the investigation, as many as 75 agents from the FBI and 50 Petaluma police officers canvassed Polly's neighborhood for evidence regarding her disappearance. For nearly 2 months, the investigation received thousands of leads and tips. Davis, however, was not linked with Polly's disappearance until November 27, 1993, when property owner Jaffe discovered in a clearing a few feet from where the defendant's car had been, stuck on October 1st, a pair of child-size red knitted tights, which, if you remember, was what was missing from the house. And they were knotted at the knees. An adult-sized dark sweatshirt turned inside out, and a knotted piece of white silky cloth shaped like a hood. The hood was triangular shaped with one knot at its broader end, 2 knots forming 2 loops at its apex end, and a concave area in the middle that appeared to have makeup smears on it. The soil in the clearing was exposed as if someone had purposefully cleared the area of ground cover. That night, Jaffe called the sheriff's office, left a message, and called again the next morning. Which I feel like you shouldn't have to call that many times
Right.
about something like that when it's like, y'all been looking for how long? Almost 2 months. And it's like, by the way, there's this here in this clearing. Hey, there's still this stuff in this clearing.
Right by where you guys saw this guy.
Yeah, right where you talked to him and helped him leave the scene.
Right. Literally assisted.
Oh, yeah, that's actually bad when you think about it that way.
Yeah.
It's like they literally just like assisted him in getting out of the crime scene.
Yeah. Pretty much. It just so much of it was handled inappropriately.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the OJ trial because like the cops fucking bumbled that so bad and like mishandled so much of the evidence and everything that OJ got away with it. And yeah.
It's kind of nuts when you just think about it because there's so many times and so much that was left behind that one could have avoided if he had remained jailed. And so much that happened the night of that either could have prevented it or stopped it potentially in the middle.
Right, because I believe there was even speculation that at the time when they first encountered him out there, Polly was still alive.
Right.
And then after the initial encounter, that's when he disappeared to kill her and then came back. And then that's when he had the interaction with the police.
Right.
So it's like,
it could have been stopped potentially if that is actually how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so bad. The whole scene's bad. So, on November 28th, 1993, Deputy Sheriff Mike McManus arrived at Jaffe's property to inspect the scene. he and Jaffe found an unrolled condom 1 to 2 feet away from the clothes, a torn Rough Rider condom wrapper, 2 pieces of strapping tape, a beer bottle, an empty plastic 6-pack holder, and a book of matches. So if we remember, the brand of condom that was purchased by Davis was a Rough Rider condom.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to prove that, it's not you, buddy. So
Right.
Jaffe told Deputy McManus of the October 1st incident involving Davis on her hillside. Because it was starting to rain, Deputy McManus was concerned about damage to trace evidence, and he did not follow normal evidence collection protocol. Instead of leaving the scene intact, he picked up the items and placed them in a box. He left the unrolled condom because he did not have materials in his patrol vehicle to collect such evidence, and he believed it was a sealed container that would not be damaged by the rain. If it's an unrolled condom, how is that a sealed container?
That literally makes 0 sense.
Right, like
It's an unwrapped condom on the ground. How is that protected?
Right, there's literally nothing protecting that.
No.
There's nothing protecting anything anymore.
No. I mean, everybody knows what an unwrapped condom looks like. Like,
Yeah,
it's just there, existing.
So basically, he left that, and later that day, an FBI team took photographs and recovered the condom. So basically, all the evidence is destroyed at this point by the rain, because, and then,
But also, it's been like 2 months of weather,
true,
which, like, October through November in the Bay Area, it's raining like crazy.
yeah,
It's
that
cold.
is true.
There's a lot of moisture. Most of that area freezes overnight in these seasons.
Yeah, especially like out in like the sticks.
In the sticks, yeah. You get like that frost layer, and then it like melts off in the morning.
Yeah, so there was no way that they were going to be able to collect anything, really.
No.
But he still should have grabbed it, because like the fact that he was just like, oh no, that's fine.
He's grabbing everything else.
Right, and it's like, so you can put
But
everything...
the one thing that could probably tie it.
You can put everything into a box, but the condom. Okay, got it. You just didn't want to touch it. I feel like it's like the Dahmer thing, where it's like, it's uncomfortable. He didn't want to deal with it. He just didn't want to touch a condom. Anyway, so Deputy McManus researched the October 1st, 1993 incident on Dana Jaffe's hillside and determined Davis's identity and his prior criminal record of assault and kidnapping. He gave this information to the Petaluma Police Department, who somehow didn't have it still by this point. Like, it's been 2 months.
Right.
And, like, nothing came back on him.
And I mean, at that point, I don't even know if they knew to look into him specifically.
Yeah.
You know, but fuck.
Yeah. Well, it's just funny that this guy looks into it and he's just like, oh, hey, he kidnapped some people and other stuff. And they're like, oh, did not know that.
Huh.
And then this actually does go into like why information was not so widely shared back then.
Right.
Like, I feel like that would have solved so many things if like police departments interacted with each other. They shared information. They broadcast on the same channels.
Right.
You know,
well, and I mean, that was kind of a result of this case, you know.
Yeah.
Was like a lot of those things getting put into place because this case was such an eye-opening experience, I think, for all agencies that were like, oh, maybe we should talk more.
Well, and especially if it's like the city and like CHP should have honestly access to everybody's frequencies.
Right.
Because they're throughout the entire state. They need to know everything. But just especially if you're like in a local area and like police in Petaluma and Santa Rosa should be communicating.
Yeah.
Like
you're
right next to each other.
25 miles apart or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
literally like a 5 to 10 minute drive sometimes, you know, depending on traffic.
Well, nowadays probably like 40.
Well, yeah, but like
back then you could definitely get to Santa Rosa and Petaluma in like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Petaluma Police Department's lead investigator, Sergeant Michael Meese, examined the evidence collected by Deputy McManus with his department's lead evidence technician, Officer Larry Pelton. And they agreed that the hood-shaped cloth matched cloth pieces found in Polly's bedroom. The next day, an FBI laboratory confirmed the match. The Petaluma Police Department learned that that Davis was a parolee who had an outstanding parole violation warrant against him based on an October 19th, 1993 drunk driving arrest in Mendocino County. So this was even after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got a DUI, and then his PO... but he was... Well, yeah, because Mendocino, but his parole check-in was in Ukiah. And he was just, like, going back and forth.
Oh, my God. I mean, I remember, like, when I was on probation, I couldn't even leave the fucking city without telling my probation officer. And this dude's just, like, bouncing around the entire state like it's nothing.
Right. Like, Mendocino and Ukiah are definitely not Sonoma County.
No, not even close.
No,
like,
that's a drive.
Yeah. Just Mendo alone is a drive, but then to get to Ukiah, because like I have
like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I have a sister that lives in Ukiah, and it's ridiculously far from here.
Yeah, it takes forever to get there.
Yeah, so yeah, the Petaluma Police Department learned that. Oh, I already said that. Davis's parole officer told them that Davis was at his sister's home in Ukiah. Mm-hmm. On November 30th, 1993, Petaluma police officers and FBI agents arrived at Davis's sister's residence in Ukiah and arrested him without incident on the parole violation warrant. They also seized Davis's car and personal belongings. Davis had since shaved off his beard because he didn't want to be identifiable.
Right.
Later that day, the officers transported Davis to the Mendocino County Sheriff's Department, where Petaluma Police Officer Pelton and FBI agent Larry Taylor confronted him about Polly Klaas's kidnapping. Davis denied any involvement. 2 days later, on December 2nd, 1993, criminalists matched Davis's palm print with a print found in Polly's bedroom. Can't deny it now, motherfucker.
Right.
And then actually, I don't know why, but like that just made me think of, have you seen this documentary on Netflix called The Submarine Murder?
No.
So I saw it, and initially my mind went to the submarine with the billionaires
right.
that, you know.
Yeah, recent.
Yeah, so I saw that, and I was like, oh, submarine. And then I was like, oh, no, it's a whole different thing. There was this, like, Danish guy or, like, Swedish guy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, like, Denmark or Sweden, you know, one of the two. And he was like this celebrity who like built rockets and fucking submarines and shit. And like he was like trying to be like one of the first amateur astronauts to go into space. And he convinced all these people to like volunteer for him and like work for him for free and shit. And so like he was doing all this and they were supposed to launch these rockets. And then one day he takes this journalist out on his submarine. And then the next day the submarine goes missing. And then the submarine is found with just him on it.
What the fuck?
And it sank. And he's like, so they rescue him. And he's like, oh no, like it was just me. I dropped her off at this one place, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then like, so, but she hasn't contacted anybody. She hasn't shown up, anything. Like she's just gone.
Like MIA.
Yeah. And then so like he gets arrested under suspicion of like, you know, like her disappear. Apparently they can like arrest you. Like, I don't know how it works over there, but like they just arrested him. They're like on murder charges without a body, without anything,
without any form of actual evidence.
Yeah. They just arrested him on murder charges based on suspicion.
I don't know. I can't speak to any other country's laws, but
yeah. But so what ended up happening is like eventually like parts of her body started to turn up. And so like every time more evidence would show up, his story would change.
Naturally.
Yeah, and so like that's what that just made me think of, where it's like, oh, like I'm gonna deny anything until you have something that catches me, and then it's like, oh, well, I did this, but I didn't do this.
Yeah, he's like, I guess I can't talk my way out of this part anymore.
Yeah. It's bad. So on December 4th, 1993, after Petaluma Police Sergeant Meese had spoken to Davis in jail and encouraged him to contact him if there was any hope that Polly was still alive, Davis asked to speak to Meese and told him over the telephone, quote, "I fucked up big time." He admitted that Polly was dead and agreed to help find her body. That afternoon, Sergeant Meese met with Davis at the Mendocino County Jail, where he, Sonoma County District Attorney Investigator Mike Griffith, and FBI agent Larry Taylor questioned Davis for nearly 2 hours. Davis claimed he went to Petaluma on the night of October 1st, 1993, to contact his mother. Unable to find her, he went to a park where he drank beer and smoked a marijuana cigarette that may have contained phencyclidine, which is apparently PCP. Did not know the actual name for that.
Oh, yeah, you're high on PCP.
Yeah. I've actually accidentally done that one time, and it's a scary experience.
And people are like Superman.
Well,
like, the fact that he didn't go in just like going nuts, swinging.
Oh god, yeah, that could have been so bad.
Yeah,
but like I didn't do any like crazy like strongman shit or anything, but like it was just like so disorienting, like the whole experience. Like I literally had like my roommate had to call me and be like, "Where are you?" Because like I had just gone to the store, which was like a block. It was like a block away. And I got lost on the way back, and then like they had to come find me, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know where I am. There's a bunch of lights and everything. There's a fire truck across the street with its lights on, so it was like making it even worse. I was just like, there's super flashing lights, and I'm just sitting here, and I don't know. I was in a college parking lot apparently. Yeah, so don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway. So Davis said he did not have a clear recollection of what he did next. I mean, I don't blame you. PCP is a hell of a drug.
Right?
He recalled entering a home through a window and hearing some voices in a room, but he said that he had never seen Polly Klaas before that point, which I find hard to believe because remember, he's like, why are there so many people here? And like they had walked past the park when they went to get popsicles.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like that was what triggered him and he like followed them.
Right. Well, and assuming the same liquor marts are the ones that were there in 93 are still the ones currently, like I know which one she went to is likely the 7-Eleven. That's right there on the corner in that neighborhood that like all the kids go to.
Yeah.
You know, and like walked right by both of those parks.
Yeah. So it's like, it's very likely that he had seen her before and that's why he targeted her.
Mm-hmm.
He did remember tying the 3 girls up with items in the bedroom. He then recalled driving and suddenly realizing that he had Polly in the front seat of his car when she complained that the bindings were too tight and her hands were going numb. Can you imagine just like coming to out of your drug-induced like stupor and you're just like, oh fuck.
Right.
I got a kid in here.
I mean, like, you know, the PCP is a good cover. he
had
a few months to think about that.
True, he did come up with it after a long period of time.
Right.
And I don't feel that the cops that interacted with him that night would have let him go if he was on PCP because like to exhibit signs of
right,
like
you're
PCP
clearly fucked up when you're on PCP. You're not. It's not like I'm high.
I couldn't make my way home a block away.
Right, it's not like when you like smoke too many joints and you're like, okay, just keep it together. I'm talking to the cops. Like, no, you don't even know what you're doing.
It's like not when you're 18 years old and you face plant in a park and the cops come up to you and you're like, oh yeah, that was me. You know, like Luck of the Irish over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you blacked out enough that you didn't even realize you kidnapped a child, but you were good enough to play off the police? Like, probably not.
Yeah,
Your
that
story's not adding up, dude.
the math ain't mathin'.
No, it's not mathing at all.
Oh fuck. So Polly kept saying that she wanted to go home. Davis drove around for a while, confused about what to do, and got lost driving up Pythian Road, where his car eventually got stuck on Jaffe's property. He then untied Polly and placed her on the embankment where she remained while he tried to free his car, at which point the deputies arrived. So wait, she was just sitting on the embankment?
Like, right. Like, she was just sitting there the whole time, and the cops were like, huh, there's a kid tied up right there. Like, they would have seen her if she was just chilling right there.
Okay, maybe he did have her, like, slightly up the embankment or something, because it says, according to Davis, he waited for about 30 minutes after the deputies escorted him off Pythian Road before returning to the hillside and retrieving Polly. So maybe he had, like, because he had all the brush and everything on him.
Right, but just by that story right there, just that section of it, he's, like, admitting that he knows what he did was wrong, and he's
and that she was
hiding
still
it.
alive.
Right, and that she's still alive. So, like, you then, instead of just...
Yeah, so the cops definitely could have prevented this.
He could have just left her ass there in reality. I mean...
True.
You're in the middle of a dark road, in the middle of nowhere. Like, you could have just been like, bye, kid. But no,
Right.
you still chose to murder her.
Yeah, because if you were like, oh, I accidentally kidnapped this kid. Oh, shit, the cops just showed up. You know what? I'm just going to wash my hands of the situation and disappear into the darkness.
Right. Like, you could have, like, just left her there, drove off. You have facial hair and long hair. It's easy to change your appearance, right?
Yeah, shave, cut your hair.
Right. And by
wash your yellow headband.
Right. Dingy yellow headband. By the time anybody could have realized what the fuck even happened and tried to identify, I mean, there's nothing besides his, like, appearance that multiple people were able to pinpoint. There's nothing really, like, stand outish, you know? I mean, he could blend into a crowd if he wanted to.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's sporadic. We know he's not good at planning things here.
Right. He doesn't plan anything.
No.
He just does.
Yeah.
Whatever the voices tell him to do.
He's living life on the edge.
In the danger zone.
Oh, fuck. It's a danger zone.
So he then drove to a gas station so Polly could use the bathroom. After leaving the gas station, Davis realized that he had to kill Polly to avoid returning to prison. No, I think the avoiding returning to prison would have been, like you said, just leave her.
Just leave her there.
Leave her there.
And she's in the bathroom, dead. She's at a gas station.
Or even, at the bathroom or anything. Like, you could just leave her.
Right.
And then it's not your problem anymore. But no.
But also, wouldn't there be, like, security camera footage of him taking her to this gas station bathroom?
In 1993, maybe not.
Well, they probably get written over, like, every 48 hours if it's a stereotypical gas station set up in the 90s.
Yeah. They'd be like, oh, yeah, just every 24 to 48 hours or whatever. It's a new feed, a new loop.
2.5 months later, you have no luck.
Yeah.
But...
So, he strangled her with a piece of knotted cloth. He later cinched a piece of cord tight around Polly's neck, quote, just to make sure.
Oh my god.
Then dragged her to some bushes and covered her body with a piece of plywood and chunks of wood that he found in the area. Davis said he did not think that he had sex with Polly or that he tried to have sex with her. So he didn't think he did it. He's like, I don't think I did that.
I don't recall.
It's
like a really shitty cover up.
Yeah, that doesn't
Considering he had tried to essentially molest every other one of his victims, like, it wouldn't be far-fetched that he also attempted with her.
Yeah, especially considering, you're like, oh, I don't remember this, but I do remember driving there, getting lost, picking her back up, going to the gas station, doing all this other stuff while under the influence of PCP. I remember all of these other things that I did. but I don't remember kidnapping her, and I don't remember killing her or sexually assaulting her.
It's a selective memory at best.
Yeah, definitely. So, that same evening, Davis, accompanied by Petaluma Police Sergeant Meese, FBI Agent Taylor, Sonoma County District Attorney Investigator Griffith, and other law enforcement officers, retraced his route after Polly's kidnapping. When they arrived at Dutcher Creek Road, located 100 feet from Highway 101, just south of Cloverdale, Davis pointed the officers in the direction of Polly's body. Polly's badly decomposed body lay under the piece of plywood and other pieces of wood in the area, covered with thorny blackberry briars, thick underbrush, and debris. Her skeletonized skull lay a short distance from the rest of her body, probably as a result of animal activity. Much of her body has skeletonized, including her entire abdominal cavity, with soft tissues and organs all absent. But some portions of the body, including her limbs, had dried in a mummified state. Polly's remains were partially covered by the nightgown Jillian P. had brought to Polly's slumber party. According to an FBI agent who observed her body, the nightgown was pulled up and inverted under her arms, which were folded across her lap. I mean, these are all pretty clear indicators of sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of impossible for him to try to claim that it didn't happen.
Right.
Like, it's a 12-year-old, dude. Like, how do you...
People are fucked up.
And then, like, what really bugs me is that I think this one psychologist tried to, like, define it as paraphilia, where it's like, oh, sexual arousal by, like, unusual things or, like, this, that, and the other, including minors. And I'm like, no, that's pedophilia.
It's pedophilia, yeah.
Yeah, it's not synonymous. It's not, no, it's wrong. Like, there's no... Anyway, yeah, it's just
psychological disorders can be stacked, but I don't know about like in place of.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's rough. So her pink blouse was untied and her white miniskirt had been pulled up to her chest, but she was still wearing her bra and panties. Her legs were spread outwards, bent at the knees and hips, which suggested that the body had not been haphazardly thrown into the brush or that rigor mortis had previously set the legs in that position. Again, clear indication of sexual assault and on a child. Strands of Polly's hair.
Gross.
Yeah.
Just gross.
Yeah, it's like, it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, it's just bad. It's just gross no matter what. It's yeah. This is, like we said, this is a very tragic story. And unfortunately, it's one that could have been prevented. And luckily it did, like you say, help influence communication between agencies a little better, and especially like localized agencies. The fact that you're this close to another county and you're not listening to their radio, because
there's on different broadcast channels, but it's like, why can't
yeah, exactly. I feel like if anything, you should have somebody whose like job is to just kind of like monitor the other counties and cities around you and just be like, oh shit, hey, somebody might be popping into our town because they just did this over here.
Right. Like, oh, hey, there's a report of this over here, so keep an eye out for anything.
Right. Keep an eye out for some weirdo in the bushes with a bunch of shit in his hair and an inside-out sweater.
Right.
Driving
a fucking Pinto.
Yeah. I mean, first indicator, the Pinto.
The fucking Pinto. Well, and like, I mean, now they share a lot more frequencies and stuff, because of this case.
Yeah.
And I mean, this case also helped, like, nationally bring in the 3-strike law. Or 3-strike type laws.
Right,
like,
because
across the board.
if those laws had been in place with Davis, he would never have been out.
Yeah, Polly Klaas never would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bad that it happened. Good that there was at least a silver lining, I guess. A benefit to come out of it.
To some degree,
Yeah, a small degree. So, strands of Polly's hair, located separately from her body and skull, had a braided rope and a knotted cloth tangled within them. The examining pathologist, Dr. A.J. Chapman, I like how it's Dr. letter A and then J-A-Y, A.J. Chapman, testified that the cause of Polly's death was unascertainable because of the condition of her body.
Right.
But that the rope and knotted cloth could have fit around Polly's neck and might have been used to strangle her. During the autopsy, when members of the FBI's evidence response team examined the remnants of Polly's panties with an alternative light source, a stain fluoresced, indicating the possible presence of semen. Further forensic testing, however, did not detect any semen at the location, which either meant that it was never present or that it was present but had degraded so as to be unidentifiable. I mean, this was 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, her body didn't last long in the elements. So, I mean,
No.
the fact that evidence...
And going from, like, hot to cold to hot. Well,
Yeah.
not really, like, hot because it's the fall, but, like, a layer of frost every morning, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a micro freeze,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like every night. So after returning from the Dutcher Creek site on the night of December 4th, Davis again described how he had strangled Polly with a piece of cloth. He added that when he eased up on the cloth, he thought he heard her groan, so he tightened up the cloth again and tied a knot. He then tied a cord around her neck and waited for Polly's movements to stop, which he described as taking, quote, forever.
Ugh.
Like, the fact that he's, like, so callously just like, yeah, it just took fucking forever.
Right,
like,
oh, man,
bruv,
hurry up.
you-
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Oh,
I mean, a lot, but,
like... a lot.
Yeah, it's deep. But, like, and to just, that speaks to his mental state, too, to such a degree. Like, not to defend him by any means, but you just sat there and watched?
Yeah.
That's twisted.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And to just be like, oh, and then, like, what's really fucked up is, like, so he had strangled her and she was still alive. So, like, he could have still stopped at this point.
Right. I mean, at that point, though, you're, like, so far in.
I mean,
like,
yes, but she,
could've stopped.
like, you could have stopped and been like, oh, shit. Like, I didn't mean to, but she's still alive. Like, let me just fucking stop and, like,
Right.
dip out. Something, anything.
Yeah.
But no, that's when he was like, oh, let me just...
You tied a knot.
Yeah.
That's so intense.
Yeah. So on December 6th, 1993, Petaluma Police Sergeant Meese and FBI Agent Taylor questioned Davis again and confronted him with evidence that he had sexually assaulted Polly before killing her. Sergeant Meese told Davis that they had found semen during an examination of Polly's remains. When Davis asked where the semen was found, Sergeant Meese responded, quote, on the body, to which Davis replied, not in her, though. Davis denied sexually assaulting Polly. When asked how semen could have wound up on Polly's body, Davis replied, quote, look, I told you at least it wasn't in her. He added, what I'm trying to tell you is that, in my mind, at least I didn't try to stick my dick in the little fucking girl.
What a fucking creep. It makes my spine crawl.
Yeah, like, I just
Like,
literally just, like, got such a gross feeling.
Right.
Like, my entire body just, like...
Yeah, I'm like, ugh. Like, ugh. Like, that's your justification level?
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's literally just justifying it at this point. He's like, look, yeah, I might have done this, but I didn't do this.
Right. I only took it this far.
Well, and basically, I think what he's even saying is you can only prove I took it this far.
Right.
Because it's kind of like I said with that submarine guy, where it's like, if he had been presented with more evidence, his story would have changed.
Yeah. When he's like, but I only did this, so maybe they'll let me off again.
So when pressed again about the semen, Davis responded, quote, "That's something I'm going to live with and run through my mind over and over and over again." Which brings me back to his, I like to replay the tying up the women while I masturbate. So that's not a good thing in my mind. This is a bad thing in my mind. He's basically admitting that he's going to relive this.
Right.
He also claimed it was a, quote, load off his mind. And he was glad when FBI agent Taylor told him that semen was found on Polly, but not necessarily in her, because he did not want that hanging over him.
So then he's kind of referring back to like, oh, my quote unquote PCP blackout.
Yeah, basically he's like, oh, if I go to prison and I sexually assaulted a kid and murdered her, everybody's going to go after me. Mm-hmm. But if I just murdered her, it's not that big a deal.
Right. I won't get as bad of a rap in prison.
Yeah. And it says Davis expressed concern that he would be mistreated in prison if other inmates considered him a child killer and molester. At the end of the interview, Davis said, quote, "I have to see what comes out of forensics. Hope nothing comes up. Hope nothing's in her."
Still kind of leaving it open-ended that it could be.
Right. He's basically saying, like, I hope I didn't leave anything behind.
Right.
Like, he did it. We all know he did it. But he's basically saying, like, you can't prove I did it, and I hope you can't. Jesus. Just because he didn't want to get his ass kicked in prison. Which I feel like I really hope he still got his ass kicked in prison.
Right.
So, during the trial, the defense conceded that Davis had killed Polly, but asserted that the evidence did not show that he sexually assaulted her. So basically, again, they're just trying to push this point of, he killed her, but he didn't do anything else.
There wasn't, like, enough evidence to prove it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, but...
Yeah. So, the defense called as witnesses Petaluma Police Sergeant Meese and Sonoma County District Attorney Investigator Michael Griffith to impeach the testimony of Jeanette Turner, the owner of the sex shop.
That one went down.
What the hell was that?
Camera fell.
Oh. Okay, cool. Things are
happening right now.
Yeah. Where did it go?
I don't know.
Hello?
It fell down like right behind you. Like I think it went that way. Yeah. Crash and burn.
Oh shit. Okay. And now there's a water bottle just dumping all over.
Oh no, it's all over your keyboard.
Okay, cool. Let me just... God damn it.
You grab a towel.
I just need to double check where we're at here. Okay.
There's like water all over your keyboard.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, shit.
All right. Well, this took a sharp left turn.
Altogether, all of it.
Yeah, it literally was just like moment to moment, just getting worse. All right, so we only have a few more slides, so we're gonna try and power through this.
Hopefully, nothing else falls over.
Oh, geez. Okay, so blah blah blah. So they were trying to overturn the testimony of Jeanette Turner, who had testified under a grant of immunity for an unrelated fraud case, regarding her inconsistent statements about whether Davis had purchased a particular condom from her adult store just before the crimes. The defense also presented testimony from Davis's parole officer, Thomas Burns, about his contacts with Davis in August and September of 1993 in an attempt to show that Davis could not have been in Petaluma before the crimes as frequently as the prosecution's eyewitnesses had claimed. Basically, they're reaching for straws at this point. They're like
grasping.
they're just like any little thing we can be like, well, no, he was seeing his parole officer that day. He wasn't in Petaluma.
But it's like, just throw the fucking book at the guy. I mean, look at his rap sheet. Come on.
That's why I honestly kind of have an issue with criminal defense attorneys. It's like, bro, you realize you're defending these terrible fucking people, and your job is to try to help them get away with it.
It is wild when you really think about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, granted, yes, there are people who get into criminal cases that are innocent and need a good criminal defense attorney.
For sure.
Granted. But 99% of the time, you're defending some scum of the earth fucking people that are doing some
scum of the earth.
that you know for a fact are guilty, but you turn a blind eye to it because you want a paycheck.
Ugh.
Have fun sleeping at night.
Couldn't do that job.
Yeah, no. I like to argue, but no.
Yeah.
So, despite the defense's best efforts, the jury found Richard Allen Davis guilty of murdering Polly Klaas. After the jury returned its verdict at the guilt phase of trial, Davis turned towards the television cameras in the courtroom and made an obscene gesture with both hands by extending his middle fingers. He then winked his eyes and blew a kiss. Like, talk about a garbage response, too. Like, you literally were just, like, basically begging and pleading for your life, and now you're just like,
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah. He's like
wubba lubba dub dub.
Yeah, and like taunting the family through the trial.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Especially...
you suck, dude.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up the comment that he had made about how he didn't sexually assault Polly because right before he killed her, she made a comment about, please don't do me like my daddy.
Yeah.
And at this point, Polly's father like lunges at him in the courtroom and like goes off, and he's like, I understand I shouldn't have lost my cool, but like for this piece of shit to like sit there and try to accuse me of
like
doing
you
what
killed my kid.
Yeah, of what he
and you're trying to point the finger at me.
Yeah.
Fuck
So it's
you.
just,
I'd lunge at him too.
I would have whooped his ass.
And I mean, there's a whole level of speculation around that comment specifically, and like, was her dad assaulting her? Blah blah blah. But like, I'd probably lunge at a motherfucker.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So, speaking of, Polly's father, Mark Klaas, and her grandfather, Eugene Reed, asked the court to sentence Davis to death. The court then allowed Davis to read a statement in which he complained at length about the failure of the police to provide him a lawyer after he invoked his right to counsel, and said he only confessed after not seeing a lawyer for 4 days because he assumed no attorney wanted to represent him because of the infamy of the case and because Petaluma Police Sergeant Meese had exploited Davis's symptoms of nicotine withdrawal. Basically, he's like, they kept me in holding and didn't let me smoke any cigarettes, so I confessed.
Right. I mean, like, I quit smoking and nicotine withdrawal sucks, but I don't think I'd confess to fucking murder. Like,
yeah, no.
Give me a cigarette or I'm gonna confess to murder. Like, what the fuck? Like, nah, dude. Sorry. Like,
I don't think I've ever wanted a cigarette that bad.
Right. Like, there have definitely been times where I'm like, give me a fucking cigarette, but like, never that bad. Like, nice try, but no.
Yeah. So Davis asserted that because of the intentional disregard of his Miranda rights, his attorneys were forced to admit guilt on some of the charges against him.
Ugh.
At the close of his statement, Davis set I actually do bring it up. Davis set off a commotion in the courtroom when he claimed he knew he did not commit a lewd act upon Polly, quote, because of a statement the young girl made to me when walking her up the embankment. Just don't do me like my dad. After pronouncing Davis's sentence of death, the trial court concluded the proceedings by stating, quote, Mr. Davis, this is always a traumatic and emotional decision for a judge. You've made it very easy today by your conduct.
Jeez.
Basically, he was like, I normally would feel really bad about sentencing someone to death,
Right,
but...
he's like, fuck this guy. Yeah. Double fingers, dude. Yeah. That would have been hilarious if the judge was just like...
And then, like, winked at him and blew him a kiss.
Not professional in any manner.
No, but, like, I feel like the moment calls for it.
Shoe fits. Lace that
Right.
bitch up and wear it.
Now, I wouldn't feel too good talking about this story without talking about who Polly Klaas was before Richard Allen Davis snuffed out her bright light. Polly Klaas was born January 3rd, 1981. She was described as funny, intelligent, and beautiful. Quote, an absolutely extraordinary child who was warm-hearted with a sunny disposition and an infectious laugh. She played the piano and the clarinet and had a particular love for acting on stage. She was afraid of being alone in the dark, often sleeping with her lights on, and fearful that, quote, a bad man would come and take her in the night.
That's so sad.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
I know, like, it's like creepy in a way.
Right, like it's like almost like she had like a psychic premonition.
Like she knew something fucked up was gonna happen. I mean, I think like most 12-year-olds are like afraid of the dark,
right?
And
like
don't want to be alone in the dark, and they're like, some bad man's gonna take me away because like the boogeyman, you
yeah,
know.
But like in this instance, it just kind of rings a little too.
Yeah.
A little too eerie.
That's super fucking eerie. Ugh.
And although Polly's mother, Eve Nickel, did not testify at the penalty phase, Petaluma Police Sergeant Meese described her on the night of Polly's abduction as being, quote, in a state of shock and anguish, which was reflected in a photograph taken of Nickel with her 6-year-old daughter Annie that night. Nickel's father, Polly's maternal grandfather, Eugene Reed, drove up to see his daughter soon after Polly's abduction and found her in deep shock, describing her as being too numb to even cry. Polly's father, Mark Klaas, who was divorced from Polly's mother, maintained a very close relationship with Polly, seeing Polly every weekend and talking to her almost daily. In the weeks before Polly's remains were discovered, he helped establish a volunteer center to direct the search for her. During this period, he abandoned his successful car rental business, lost 30 pounds, developed a severe sleep disorder, and began seeing a therapist. Which everybody should see a therapist.
And go to therapy.
Yeah.
Everybody needs therapy.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, dude, I think I'd throw my fucking life away if my kid was missing. Like,
yeah.
I could not. I mean, I don't even have kids yet. One day eventually, but like, I can't even fathom that. I mean, I have kids that are very important in my life and that I help co-parent. And if something ever were to happen, I'd raise hell. I'd be beating down doors.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be a mess.
Yeah. After learning that Polly was dead, he went berserk and became so enraged that members of his family had to restrain him. It was an anger that he said he carries on to this day. He became a child advocate, promoting an agenda to spare other children from her fate. He continued to have sleep disorders, often experiencing dreams and nightmares about Polly, and continued to see a therapist. Polly also enjoyed a close relationship with her maternal grandfather, Eugene Reed, often visiting him and his wife at their home on the Monterey Peninsula, where she would play music with him and take walks on the beach. Reed described the 64 days Polly was missing as just about the worst time he had ever had in his life. Even worse was the discovery that Polly was dead. In her memory, he and his wife put up a bench in Pacific Grove facing the ocean with an inscription for Polly. Well, that was definitely a sad story to cover,
Yeah.
but also a really important one to talk about at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we had mentioned, this case prompted the sharing of information and broadcasting of alerts on channels that all law enforcement agencies have access to,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully prevents something like this from happening again.
Yep. Brought in so many different laws into place too.
Yeah.
And
One, like you mentioned, the 3-strike law,
yeah,
because
the 3-strike law, and I mean that obviously is a huge impact now.
yeah,
It's just like a known thing, and it changed the community nonetheless. I mean, as much of an impact as it had on like law enforcement and the legal system overall, that phone really wants to play Beethoven.
okay. Jesus. Really? All right, we're just gonna turn you off.
You're done for the night.
You're done. You're done, kid. You're done fucked up. Oh, shit. Yeah, okay, yeah, everything's collapsing.
It's falling apart.
The system is collapsing around us.
To say the least. But you know, it changed Petaluma as a whole. You know, I mean, it's a very small community. It's definitely not as small. I mean, back then, I think in the early 90s, the population of Petaluma was like 45,000 people, something like that. I think it might have been like 48 or 50 when I was growing up.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, we say small town, and like, yeah, those aren't necessarily like super small town numbers. There's obviously way
Yeah, but you
smaller
have to think
towns.
about like how dispersed it is too.
Yeah,
because
Petaluma's
it's like
pretty wide, and
yeah,
it's
it's
mostly
not-
farms.
it's not like a big city center where it's like, oh, it's
No.
this many people, but it's all crammed into a tiny little fucking square acreage of space. You know?
Yeah, I
like-
mean, it could take you like 2 hours to walk clear across town. I used to do it when I was a teenager.
Yeah,
I walked all over
yeah.
that town. But you know, teenager didn't have a car.
Yeah.
But you know, it changed, and like the whole ideology of like lock your doors. You know, like I said before, like put a dowel in the window.
Yeah.
You know, put a stick. Like that was so huge. When I was a kid in Petaluma, there was this guy that like kept breaking into people's like yards and houses and stuff, and he broke into one of my neighbor's houses, like literally across the street, and I mean, it was insane. Like the helicopters were out, police department was
fuck.
out, and this guy was like, they were searching. It was actually like a friend of ours that had called it in. It was her yard, and they searched and they couldn't find this guy, and then you know police leave and everything. And then she, you know, is going to make sure her back slider door was locked. And as she's double checking her lock, she looks up and he crawls out of her hot tub.
Oh no!
Like he was hiding in the fucking hot tub, like under the cover. And like, I mean, yeah, you wouldn't really be like, oh yeah, there's a covered hot tub. Let me check. Those things are heavy. That's hot in there, bro.
Yeah.
You know, but this dude was hiding in there. And like, I remember a bunch of people were like, oh my God, it's Polly Klaas. Like, not that this guy had murdered anybody or kidnapped anybody,
Yeah.
but people were like, ah, you know, and it was just crazy. I remember that very distinctly. It was an insane day. I think I was like 9 or something like that. But it was just they talked about Polly Klaas in school. Like, you know, the Polly Klaas Foundation was ingrained. Like, there was a Polly Klaas event every year. And, like, we were given, like, T-shirts and stuff. And, like,
Yeah.
the body system was huge. And, you know, something like that happens in Petaluma and it rocks the community. Because it's a smaller community at the end of the day. I mean, as much as it's turned into a city and it's become vastly industrialized, it's still, you know, I mean, I grew up in a small cow town where when we were younger, the saying of Petaluma was, you smell it before you see it. Because, you know, it wasn't so industrialized. It was
Yeah.
mostly farms. You'd be driving in
Yeah.
a town at night and you could smell the cow shit before you would see the lights of the town. Like,
Yeah, no, and then, like it's definitely the kind of thing that like the aftershocks and the ripples like are felt well after the event itself.
definitely.
You know, and it's like it just was such a detrimental case to like that area
Mm-hmm.
and like to her family and to like to everything. It was just like so random too.
Yeah,
Like,
and they
just
moved. I mean, they like sold a house.
Yeah.
Like they dipped.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to stay there either.
Oh God,
I mean,
no! Like I
in
number
a
one,
small town mentality. Everywhere you go to the grocery store, people are like, "Oh my God, it's her."
right?
You know, like, oh
She's like,
God.
"Oh, I'm so sorry."
Like everywhere you
And,
go,
like,
yeah,
they're
you get the
always
like
bringing it
the
up.
looks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
like
can't
then
even
you
move
have to
on.
you have to live with it every single day because
Ugh.
people are constantly just bringing it up to you, and like I get that their intentions are good and like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened or like this, that, and the other, but like after a certain point, yeah, you just want to move on.
Yeah, you have to heal at some point.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if like it's like going. It's like, you know, going through a traumatic thing, and everywhere you go, people are like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this happened to you."
Yeah, and you're just like, oh yeah, the thing I'm trying to forget. Sure, thanks. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thanks so much for bringing that up.
Right. All right. Well, other than that, I think that's pretty much the end of the episode.
All right.
Thank you very much
Thanks for
for
having
coming
me.
out and being on the show, and thank you very much for picking the topic. Like I said, it was a depressing one, but
I picked the saddest topic.
no, but
possible.
like I said, it's a very important one to talk
Yeah.
about because, like we mentioned, not everybody knows the story, especially nowadays, and so
And
it
it's
is
almost 30 years.
yeah, it's important to bring it back to light every once in a while and just be like, look, like this was an issue and like we need to be aware. And like I said, it ties in with mental health. It ties in with, you know, just personal security. Like you said, locking your doors, making sure like, you know, we don't want no serial killers, you know. So we do or we did mention that you have the freak show coming up on the 22nd.
Yes.
So by the time this releases, that'll be tomorrow. So if you're in the Sacramento area or if you want to travel to the Sacramento area tomorrow, get your ass out here and come see the Scream Queens, including Dani Demize.
Yes.
Also, would you like to promote any other shows or your socials at this point?
Yeah, so we have Scream Queens Gorelesque presents the, what are we at? Third or fourth annual? I feel like we're at third. I can't count anymore. Pandemic messed me up. I'm like, what year is it? I don't know.
Like Jumanji, what year is it?
Right. That's how I feel constantly. People are like, that was 8 months ago. I'm like, it was 2 weeks ago. Shush. Yeah, so October 14th is our Cabaret Macabre. We are doing a Silver Scream edition.
Okay.
The first time putting kind of a different edition on it this year. So it'll be October 14th. It's a Saturday. It's at the Colonial Theater in Sacramento, which is our home base. And that's going to be another kick-ass show. I already got the lineup booked for that. And we have a pretty sweet fucking lineup. So come out to see that. See us at Sinister Creature Halloween Con. God, I fucked that up. So many words. And that is October 21st. I think we're at the Scottish Rite Center again, and then we'll be having an after party that Saturday night, and then I think we're doing a 2-day, so back on Sunday. Nice. Yeah. And then follow me on Instagram.
Yes,
I post all my shows. I have a bunch of shows coming up in August, and yeah.
So that is Dani Demize, DaniDemize.
Yep.
On all social medias. I was gonna say something else and then I spaced. Anyway.
Plugging all the socials.
Oh yeah, no. I was just gonna say, for those that aren't aware, Sinister Creature Con is a horror and just all around awesome convention that occurs twice a year.
Twice a year now.
Yes, summer and a fall version. And so you can check them out. You can go get tickets to Sinister Creature Con, where you can see a lot of the Scream Queens. You can see a lot of special guests that they have from like horror movies, whether it be like 80s icons, current horror movies.
That's some pretty awesome people.
Yeah, I believe, didn't they have we were talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween. Didn't they have the girl that played
I can't remember
The
the name.
babysitter.
Yes.
Yes, I'm horrid with names.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
considering I work the conventions, I should know these things. But I can't remember anybody's name to save my life.
Yeah.
No, we've had celebrities from all walks of life. I mean, our recent one back in June, I had the awesome opportunity to work Rachel True's table from The
Oh,
Craft, and she is
yes,
phenomenal.
nice,
She was
yes.
amazing. So I don't know where we're at right now. I can't say some things that I do know. But
You're just gonna have to come in and
yeah,
find
you'll have
out.
to come and find out. And, we'll also kind of see what goes on with the strike. But
Oh yeah.
but there's really amazing vendors. We always have a rad celebrity lineup. We do our best, and then the queens also have a table now. So we have a table at every convention, so you can come. Get a selfie with the Scream Queens, buy some merch, maybe some autographs.
Okay. All right. Well, other than that, thank you all for listening. If you were watching on YouTube, apologies for the camera issues. If you weren't, don't mind me. I'm not saying anything.